Welcome to the Primetime News on MITV. I am Jumoke Michaels. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari says Nigeria needs accurate census in 2023. Federal government says Governors Forum incurs the Paris Club judgment debt. On the foreign scene, firefighters battle wildfire in France. And in sports, Morocco fire coach 3 months before 2022 World Cup. Welcome again. President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday in Abuja reiterated the importance of an accurate census next year, saying the correct figures will help the country in planning for the citizens, just as he noted that Nigeria could rank 3rd largest in the world by 2050 after China and India. He stated this while speaking at the National Stakeholders Summit on the 2023 Population and Housing Census held at the State House. He said the deployment of digital technology in 2023 National Population and Housing Census will ensure effectiveness and more accuracy in the figures. President Buhari said a reliable, credible, acceptable, and successful census will help government in planning purpose for development, especially in bolstering the social security program that targets more vulnerable Nigerians. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday met with the representatives of the victims of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack that took place on March 28, 2022. While receiving the families of the train attack, President Buhari made it clear that his administration has said it will not negotiate with terrorists, and security experts believe the releases are largely negotiated by relatives of the victims and civilian stakeholders. Gunmen had on March 28 blown up the rail track, killing some and abducting scores of passengers. Many of the kidnapped passengers have since been released, but others remain in captivity. On Wednesday, 7 more kidnapped passengers were released, although it was not clear if a ransom was paid.
There have been several actions taken from the moment the incident occurred on the 28th of March by various government officials to not only ascertain the extent of fatality and damage caused by the actions of these terrorists, but also how to best bring succor to the affected families and ensure that such an occurrence never again takes place in our country. I have been informed that at last count, there remain about 31 people in the hands of the kidnappers, and our determination is to work towards returning these 31 people to their families.
Of the victims have been out from the captivity, which they paid ransom of monies, which the remaining those in captivity doesn't have the ability and capacity to at least rescue their loved ones. We are appealing, Mr. President, under your capacity to assist us, to help us from the capacity or from the ability that Allah provide you. Please and please, we want to see our loved ones.
The federal government says the Governors Forum incurred the Paris Club judgment debt in their own rights, just as it says it has successfully executed over 350 MLA requests and over 50 extradition requests, including MLA requests from United Kingdom on trafficking in person. The Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, who disclosed that the debts existed before the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari came into office, made this revelation as he gave a detailed analysis of the Paris Club club refund issues, stating that the governors on their own, without the intervention of the federal government, took steps to make part payments to the consultants, acknowledging their liability over the same. He made this known while speaking on judicial reforms and justice dispensation during the 46th session of the ministerial media briefing organized by the Presidential Communications team at the Presidential Villa, Abuja.
The liability or judgment debt relating to Paris Club was indeed a liability created by the Governors Forum in their own right. How do I mean? The Governors Forum, comprising of all the governors, sat down, commonly agreed on the engagement of consultant to provide certain services for them relating to the recovery of the Paris Club. So it was the Governors Forum and not the federal government in the first place that engaged the consultant. Two, when eventually successes were recorded associated with the refund associated with Paris Club, the governors, collectively and individually, presented a request to the federal government for refund. And among the components of the claim presented for the consideration of the federal government was a component relating to the payment of these consultants that are now constituting the subject of contention.
Meanwhile, the federal government has said it secured more than 1,000 convictions for terrorism-related court cases in the last 18 months, just as it has also won 312 convictions in various other criminal cases within the last 18 months. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, disclosed this while appearing on the monthly ministerial briefing at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. The minister, who was accompanied to the briefing by senior officials of the Ministry of Justice and some of the departments and agencies under the ministry, also claimed the Muhammadu Buhari-led administration had recovered over 3.2 billion naira of stolen monies from various jurisdictions globally in the last 14 months. He noted that the ministry, through the CCG unit, is coordinating the next phase of terrorism-related trials in collaboration with the Federal High Court, the Legal Aid Council, and the Defense Headquarters. In the meantime, the federal government has vowed to go ahead with the planned implementation of a 5% hike in coal and data tariff. A statement from the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning maintained the tariff hike will go on despite resistance from Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Professor Isa Ali Pantami. The statement insisted the government will begin the implementation of 5% excise duty tax on all voice calls, SMS and data services, in addition to the existing 7.5% value-added tax VAT paid for goods and services across all sectors of the economy. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, made the disclosure at a stakeholders meeting organized by the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, the telecoms industry regulator. Moving on to security matters, the Defense Headquarters on Thursday said 2 additional suspected terrorists linked with the Owo attack have been arrested. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, during a meeting with media executives and editors on Tuesday, announced the arrest of some suspected terrorists, including the mastermind of Owo attack. Armed men stormed the St. Francis Catholic Church, Owo, on 5th June 2022 and killed no fewer than 40 worshippers. However, in a statement on Thursday, the Director of Defense Information, Major General Jimmy Akpo, said the duo of Al-Kazim Idris and Abdul Halim Idris were arrested at Omyo Lafara Oshe local government area in Ondo State during a joint operation with the DSS and the police. He added that Abdul Halim, alongside other high-profile ISWAP commanders, had previously coordinated attacks on military targets in Okene local government area of Kogi State, which led to the death of many. And here in Lagos, the state's leather hub, when completed, has the capacity to provide direct and indirect jobs as well as training opportunities to develop local skills that would help improve economic value chain of Nigeria. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu stated this at an inspection tour of an ongoing project works in the state. The governor said the leather hub, with about 60 to 65% level of completion, would create training opportunity for over 100 students with 42 lockup shops capacity to sell leather products, and would also be an avenue for Lagos to enter into the rubber market. The governor also inspected a vehicle assembly plant at Ogba, Lagos, which he said was projected to produce about 5,000 to 10,000 vehicles and train citizens in partnership with the Lagos State government.
You can see it's an hub. It's a leather hub where we want two things, right? Have a production line where people, can be trained in all forms of leather activity, leather products in general, right? From shoes to leather bags to belt, everything that has to do with tannery and leather. You've seen the factory that we have behind, more like training ground. Up on this floor, on the second floor, they have plans to be able to take about 100 students at once, where each one of them will have a small machine where they can learn from, and thereafter they can go into the hub and the factory itself if they have orders, and people that are into leather manufacturing already, they don't need to travel out of the country to make, all of their leather finished products.
To politics, Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivo, who defected to Labour Party last month after losing at the PDP primaries, has emerged as the gubernatorial candidate of the party. He defeated Moshood Salvador at the Labour Party governorship substitution primaries held in Ikeja, Lagos, after he polled 111 delegate votes against Salvador's 102. The Deputy National Chairman, Lamidi Apapa, announced that 215 accredited voters cast their votes in the primary election, which recorded 2 void votes. A third prospective Guber candidate, Babatunde Gbadamosi, did not participate in the primaries. Speaking to journalists after he was announced the winner, Rhodes-Vivo said that the election was credible and transparent, and that he will reach out to Mr. Awamaridi, the party's candidate recognized by the electoral body INEC. However, Salvador condemned the electoral process, just as he claimed that one of the delegates voted 3 times.
That the total vote cast 215. Alhaji Moshood Salvador got 102 votes. We have 2 votes void. Labour Rose is hereby declared the winner of today's election and stands to be the governorship candidate of Labour Party in Lagos State.
And I'll be looking to him for, not just advice and inspiration for this election that's going to happen. He has a formidable structure in Lagos State. Somebody that we know when we work together will be able to take Lagos. So he's somebody I'll be reaching out to and I'll be consulting as we move forward. I'm very happy that we had a free and fair election. The Labour Party has shown itself to have the capacity for what we're trying to bring to Lagos, which is transparency and accountability. Lagos, get ready for a Lagos that works for you and puts you first. A Lagos that solves problems with you at the center of it, not the interest of people that have perfected state capture for the last 19 years.
I decided to be gentle, to be quiet, and to be studying what was going on. The trick they made the last time, they perfected it a little bit more. You can see that the total accreditation was not the same thing with the total. It is because they have not perfected their rigging. So I reject it in totality. It's the personalities that committed the atrocities that need to be called to question. Just pardon the party. See, if they really want to win in Lagos, we are putting our legs in the same trouser now.
There is nowhere in the law, in the Electoral Act, that you can allow any statutory delegate to vote. I made mention of it. And there are some votes that is supposed not to be counted, which I equally pointed to.
And in Ogun State, a former gubernatorial candidate of New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, Olujobi Ezekiel Fayoyi, has declared to run on the platform of African Democratic Congress, ADC. Similarly, Imole Ayoshola, who withdrew his candidacy of Abeokuta South Federal Constituency on the platform of NNPP, has declared to run on the platform of ADC. Citing the reason for switching camps, the two aspirants said that ADC gives more opportunities to the youth to participate in politics and governance, as the party came third in the 2019 gubernatorial election in Ogun State, apart from winning state and federal legislative seats in the parliamentarian elections. The duo said the party has the pedigree to claim Ogun State, having seen the disappointment of the APC-led government in various sectors. Ikeja Golden Lions Club, District 404B2 Lagos, has reinforced the need for the youth and students to acquire a hand skill in order to be self-reliant and reduce the level of unemployment in the country. The president of the club, Lion Yetunde Balogun, while speaking at the club's youth empowerment program on Thursday in Lagos, said the youth are the future of the country and should be invested in. According to her, hand skill provides additional source of income and enables one not to be dependent on anyone, rather to be independent. The chairperson of the club, Lion Murayo Akinwande, said it's very important for parents to let their children have a skill in order to move away from being vulnerable and live above the poverty level.
Giving them a foundation of having hobbies, because in future their hobbies can become their profession. That's why we titled it the Empowerment Program for the Youth. We know it may not be useful for today, but it's going to be useful for them tomorrow. So that is why we are giving them the foundation of all this.
It's better for them to know how they can be for themselves in future. They are training them for exercise, for cakes, for salad. All the things they are training them for them to be self-sufficient in future for themselves. So that is why we are training them.
And Lion Yinka Bello pointed out that the youth should be encouraged to engage in different vocational skills, stating that once the youth are engaged, it will reduce the level of crimes and other societal vices in the country. They advised the youth to be positive thinkers always, to think out of the box on what will make them better persons in life.
If you give it to them, you will have your life tomorrow to live, and there will be peace. And I believe one thing, there is nothing you give to the children that is a waste. No knowledge is lost. So that is why we are looking out for the children, so that the future of this country will be brighter.
It will give them the opportunity to be able to learn something which they can leverage on, which they can also, which can empower them, to make them to be resourceful, to make them to, make some money and even help their parents in little things that they can get money from doing all those things engaging themselves in those skills.
What I learned from the Lions Club International Skill Acquisition was about tying gele, hair making, event planning, and baking or cooking.
You're still watching the primetime news on MITV. Up next are stories from the foreign scene after this break. You're welcome back. More than 1,000 firefighters are battling a massive wildfire in the southwestern France that has already destroyed nearly 7,000 hectares of forest. The raging blaze near the city of Bordeaux has gutted a number of homes and forced 10,000 residents to flee. Strong winds and high temperatures are hampering the firefighting operation. This summer, France and a number of other European countries have seen a wave of deadly wildfires triggered by record temperatures and droughts across the continent. More than 1,000 deaths have been attributed to the heat in Portugal and Spain. Authorities have accused an alleged member of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of plotting to assassinate former U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton, probably in retaliation for killing Iran's General Qasem Soleimani in 2020. The U.S. Department of Justice revealed the charges against Shahram Posafi of Tehran, accusing him of offering an unidentified U.S.-based individual $300,000 to carry out the killing in Washington, D.C. or neighboring Maryland. Bolton, a foreign policy hawk and vocal advocate of regime change in Iran, served as national security advisor under former President Donald Trump, but he left the job before a U.S. drone attack killed Soleimani in Baghdad in January 2020. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has declined to answer questions as part of a New York State investigation into his family's business practices. Trump had sued in an effort to block the interview at the New York Attorney General's office. State officials accused the Trump organization of misleading authorities about the value of its assets in order to get favorable loans and tax breaks. Trump denies wrongdoing and has called the civil probe a witch hunt.
It's this attitude of arrogance that explains why Hillary Clinton made 13 phones disappear, including with a hammer, so the FBI couldn't see them, and why she bleached her emails after a congressional subpoena. That's after the subpoena came. This isn't before. That's after the subpoena came. Now the people who destroyed the emails are all pleading the Fifth Amendment in front of Congress today. Have you seen what's going on in front of Congress? Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. Horrible.
We'll take another break to bring you sports stories. And now sports stories. Morocco has fired its football coach, Vahid Halilovic, just 3 months before the country competes in the World Cup finals in Qatar. The announcement by the Moroccan Football Federation on Thursday ends months of speculation over the fate of the Franco-Bosnian coach, who has now suffered the extraordinary feat of being fired 3 times by national teams after they qualified for World Cup finals. The MFF said in a statement that given the differences and divergent visions between the Federation and national team coach on the best way to prepare the national football team for the Qatar 2022 World Cup, the two parties decided to separate. Manchester City have agreed a fee of 13 million euros plus add-ons with Anderlecht, who for Spain under-21 international defender Sergio Gomez. City were looking at left-sided options after failing to complete a deal for Brighton's Marc Cucurella, who joined Chelsea last week for 62.5 million euros. If not promoted to the first-team squad, Gomez could be loaned to City Football Group club Girona in Spain. He came through the Barcelona academy before joining Borussia Dortmund. The 21-year-old then spent 2 years on loan at Huesca in 2019 before joining Anderlecht, where he played under former City's keeper Vincent Kompany. And now talking tennis. Nick Kyrgios produced a serve and volley masterclass to topple world #1 Daniil Medvedev 6-7, 6-4, 6-2 for his 8th straight win on a day of upsets at the Canadian Open in Montreal. It appeared that top-seeded Russian Medvedev had all the momentum when he eased through the first set tiebreaker, and the temperamental Kyrgios smashed a ball into the stratosphere in frustration. But the Australian regrouped and broke Medvedev's serve to begin the second set and served his way out of trouble in the following game for a 2-0 lead that he would not relinquish. And that's it on the primetime news on MITV. But before we leave, we'll take a recap of the top stories. We told you that President Buhari says that Nigeria needs accurate census in 2023. And we also said that the federal government has said that the Governors Forum has incurred the Paris Club judgment debt. From the foreign scene, firefighters battle wildfire in France. And in sports, Morocco has fired coach 3 months before 2022 World Cup. Thanks for watching. I am Jumoke Michaels. Good night.